Welcome back to the 9 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Tonight, we are going to focus on the issue of unemployment because unemployment rate, viewers, in the country has touched a 4-month high of 7.91% in December 2021, as per the data by Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, CMIE. Now, the unemployment rate was about 7% in November, and the highest that we have seen in the recent months was in the month of August, wherein it was at 8.3%. This is as per the CMIE data. Now, December numbers are significant as they show a declining trend even before the new COVID wave has led to fresh restrictions being imposed on business. With COVID cases on the rise amid the threat posed by Omicron and many states imposing fresh curbs, economic activity and consumption levels have been affected, are now going to be impacted as well. Now, this could adversely impact economic recovery further going ahead. Now, to understand what these numbers really mean, I have with me Mahesh Vyas, the MD and CEO of Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, joining us. Thank you very much for joining us here on Mirror Now. Mr. Vyas, I want to understand from you the unemployment rate, as per the data that you've released, has risen to 7.9% in December from 7% in November. How do you really interpret this data? What should we make of this number?
Well, the December number tells us that the unemployment rate is high. In the last 3-4 months, the unemployment rate has been persistently over 7% or around 7%. Now, the number of 7% for the unemployment rate is high by any standards. So the first takeaway is that the unemployment rate is high. The second point, and that also very important, is while the unemployment rate increased in December, employment did increase. So what happened is that the number of people who came seeking for jobs was quite high. Nearly 8 million people came looking for jobs. That's what swelled the labor force. And only 4 million of them got jobs. So the remaining were left without any jobs. So although employment increased, the unemployment rate went up. You see, more people came into the labor force, only half of them got jobs, therefore the unemployment rate went up. But mind you, employment also went up.
But, now you have also said that the urban unemployment rate was at about 9.3% in December as compared to 8.21% in November, while the unemployment rate in rural areas was about 7.28% as compared to 6.44% the previous month, November. Does it mean that middle class was hit more because of COVID?
You can say that. Everybody has been impacted when you look at income. But when it comes to employment and good quality jobs, like I've said, salaried jobs have shrunk. And many of them are in urban India. And we have seen the unemployment rate in urban India go up. And therefore, what you're saying is right, that there is greater stress in urban India. There's greater stress in middle class for jobs today.
Okay, you say that more came seeking for jobs. That's the sense that you got from the month of December. Did you find any evidence of increase in number of jobs as well? You've been tracking this data for last so many years.
So in December, there was an influx into the labor market, which is a very healthy sign. But in spite of that influx of labor into the labor market seeking jobs in December, where we stand in December is still not as good as what we were like in 2019-20. In 2019-20, the fiscal year 19-20, India provided employment to 408.9 million. So employment was 408.9 million. In December, we were at 406 million. So we are like nearly 3 million jobs less compared to where we were then. So we are still not providing enough jobs. Our labor participation rate has declined. So December is a one-off with a little correction. But in general, the labor force has shrunk, the labor force participation rate has shrunk, and employment has shrunk. Worse still, the composition of employment has deteriorated. So salary jobs, the kind that you can classify as middle income jobs, accounted for 21% of total employment in 2019-20. Today they account for 19%. So labor force has shrunk, labor force participation rate has shrunk, employment has shrunk, and the composition has worsened.
But then, Mr. Vyas, last month only, we got reports from IITs and IIMs. In fact, IITs witnessed best ever placement season. 100% placement was reported in some IIMs too. Then what do we make of that sort of data?
It's not that nobody gets jobs. People do get jobs. IIT is the cream of the country and they are bound to get jobs. The point is that not adequate jobs are created. Like I mentioned earlier, 8 million people came to look for jobs in the month of December. 4 million got jobs, not just the IITians. The IITians got fancy salaries as well. I don't mean fancy in a derogatory sense. They deserve good salaries. But the large bulk of people did not get jobs. 4 million people who came to look for jobs in December did not get it. So what we are seeing is that a small sliver of the labor force is getting jobs. They're well educated, they're well placed to get good quality jobs. But a fairly large chunk of people who are less educated, not appropriately skilled or not appropriately educated, are getting left out or getting jobs which are not suitable to them. The fundamental problem in India is that we are not generating enough jobs for the number of people who are seeking them.
Do we know how many people actually lost their jobs in the month of December or because of COVID specifically?
No, I don't do that calculation on a monthly basis. It's a little complex. It requires to be done on a 4-monthly basis, but I don't have those numbers readily in my hand. What I can say is that there are about 38 to 39 million unemployed people in the country. That's the order of magnitude. But how many people lost their jobs is actually a number that I don't have.
That's a whopping number of unemployed people in the country. Sector-wise, Mr. Vyas, is there any sense that you can give us, which sector was worst impacted and which sector is doing fine in terms of the employment status?
So in December 2021, you look at the numbers of the composition of employment in December 2021, and the best thing is to compare it to pre-pandemic. So look at what the situation was in the fiscal year 2019-20. When I see that employment in manufacturing has shrunk. Employment in the services sector as a whole has shrunk. So employment in hotels, travel, tourism, education, these are the sectors that took the big hits. The ones that gained are retail trade, which is mostly delivery boys or people who stand behind counters and shops. They are relatively low-paying jobs, or jobs have increased in construction. So mind you, manufacturing jobs go down, construction goes up. Manufacturing jobs are good quality jobs, construction jobs are not similarly good quality jobs. But big thing over here is that jobs or employment in agriculture has increased. So that's largely disguised unemployment. So the composition industry-wise is that you lose jobs in education, lose jobs in hotels and tourism, lose jobs in manufacturing, gain jobs in construction and retail, trade and agriculture.
But Mr. Vyas, before Omicron came into our lives, we were talking about faster than expected economic recovery, but your jobs data is suggesting otherwise.
No, the things on job front is not very good. The situation on household incomes is not very good. So there is, again, a small sliver of the economy that's doing very well, but those are the fast frequency numbers that go into the ready counting. But if you look at the economy as a whole, and not just a small sliver that is tax-paying kind of people or enterprises, you look at the larger economy, those people who are not necessarily paying taxes, then the situation looks pretty grim. Employment being low, consumer sentiments being low, incomes being low in the households, MSMEs being stressed. So the larger situation is that there is some recovery for sure, but the recovery is not on a strong footing.
But, the spike in unemployment rate that has come in December, it came even before the restrictions were announced, which we are seeing right now. So what is the outlook going forward?
It's not a pretty picture right now, according to me. There was a recovery. The recovery required to be supported. It required to be strengthened, but I don't think we have strengthened the recovery process. We have let it go astray. We had a very good recovery in the September quarter, when employment numbers improved a lot more. By late September, we were looking at some strengthening of the recovery process. Corporates had done well as well. But today the situation looks a little shaky. I'll not say grim, but looks shaky. So the recovery process has not been strengthened. It is getting shaky. Jan looks a little dicey. So I think it will be a bit of a challenge for us to sustain this growth rate without support.
So you're saying that today the situation looks shaky based on the number that you've got for the month of December. January looks a little dicey, with the Omicron now triggering the third wave, restrictions being announced by various state governments. Do you see situation getting really worse from where we are?
Well, it looks like the disease is less debilitating, but it does spread a lot more. If it spreads a lot more and a lot faster, it will keep people home. If it keeps people home, there'll be less number of people to run the shop. So just plain simple arithmetic. As this disease affects more and more people, it will keep those people out of the labor force for the few days that they are ill, and their families are constrained. So I see this to be a difficult situation, and will require the economy to be propped up to ensure that this doesn't become a serious problem. I don't think it is a serious problem, but I don't think we need to wait for it to just kind of the growth opportunities to meander away. We require to arrest them. We require to ensure that we don't let this disease spread further, or more variants to cause more havoc. So acceleration in vaccination, taking care of health by people, and trying not to do lockdowns.
All right. Mr. Vyas, thank you very much for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now and helping our viewers understand the data that you've released for the month of December. Situation is not looking very good. So what can now be done to solve India's job crisis? That's our debate this evening. We have Professor Santosh Mehrotra, who is an economist at Jawaharlal Nehru University, joining us live. Rishi Bagri, financial analyst and economist, Manchester Business School. Rituparna Chakrabarti, co-founder and Executive Vice President, Team Lease, also joining us this evening. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us here on Urban Debate. Professor Mehrotra, let me begin the discussion with you. You just heard Mr. Vyas. 8 million people came looking for jobs in the month of December. Only 4 million managed to get it. Are you worried about how the situation is? Because this happened when Omicron had not become a big worry.
I've been worried for the last 5 years. I've just become more worried by how the situation has evolved and how the government has handled the COVID pandemic and the economic stimulus that came into effect. Please remember that even before the pandemic broke, youth unemployment rates had either tripled or quadrupled. I think you need to understand that the economy was doing very poorly indeed prior to the pandemic. The pandemic has come on top of that. The poor management of the economy post-pandemic has come on top of that. So, I mean, just to give you a sense what graduate unemployment looked like, how it changed between 2013 and 2019. It went from 20% to 38%. For postgraduates, it went from 19.5% to 43%. For tech graduates, it went from 19% to 39%. That's the order of magnitudes over a 7-year period prior to the pandemic. So I'm deeply worried because this doesn't seem to be a priority for the government at all.
Okay. Rituparna Chakraborty, we have been discussing the issue of unemployment, rising unemployment, job crisis as it is called, that even before this pandemic came into our lives. In your opinion as well, do you think this has gone from bad to worse?
So, I don't think I'm going to comment about India's unemployment problem, because what we know, we know. Obviously, it's a known fact that we do not have as many jobs as the number of kids who are joining the workforce every month. And hence, that's not something that I'll go into. But just specific to the question you're asking, if you were, as somebody who's a practitioner in this space, with all modesty, I can say that how the last couple of quarters has been, and if there has been progress. I think the second quarter, from a hiring momentum perspective, has been extremely encouraging. And we also saw in Q3 that momentum continued. We also noticed that pretty much, while initially the first couple of quarters, the sectors which were in any case doing well, even through the pandemic, started doing even better. But we actually saw that even the laggard sector started picking up. There were hiring momentums in hospitality, tourism, lifestyle retail, which started picking in. Of course, nothing compared to the past, nothing compared to the other sectors like technology, edtech, healthcare, e-commerce, and so on and so forth. It's also important to bear in mind that Omicron could not have possibly led to any lack of employment in December, specifically, or in the months prior to that. October and November were actually very good months from a hiring perspective. And as a matter of fact, I'm somebody who has a problem where I do see more demand than the supply that's possibly there to be able to meet the demand. We also have seen extraordinary amount of investments that have come in, whether it's in the startup ecosystem, food tech, delivery tech, and so on and so forth. And most of them is resulting in increased demand for workforce on ground. Having said that, December is typically, and it has got nothing to do with the pandemic season, nothing to do with any impact on Omicron. There is a slowdown of momentum which happens after the festive season. So it's a very typical pattern. It's got nothing to do with what's currently happening. It happens, there's a slowdown happens. There is again a surge which happens during the last week because of Christmas, New Year's, footfalls, and so on and so forth. So then, of course, then you're followed by a Q4. Again, the normal pattern for the subsequent quarter is usually that people go back to the drawing board. They're planning for the next financial year. So that's essentially how hiring has been happening in this country. Q2 and Q3 are the best months for hiring momentum. And then everything else happens in a steady pace manner. So from that perspective, I actually do not see such a gloomy picture. I just feel that, yes, as a country, from a macro perspective, there is a lot that we need to do to encourage and generate more employment. But if you were to ask me, is there a progress that we have noticed? Yes, there has been, and I can't deny it.
Okay, interesting. What you're telling us that, this probably could be a trend that usually we see in the month of December. That's what we've seen in December 2021. That's what we all are hoping for. But Rishi Bagri, what is your assessment? Because we just spoke to Mr. Mahesh Vyas of the CMIE, whose data actually we are discussing today. He seemed to suggest that, employment, yes, in certain sectors, it has gone up, service-oriented, retail space specifically. But, in regions like manufacturing, it has actually gone down. Is that a cause of concern?
Thank you, Hinaji. Since my friends are quoting CMIE data as sacrosanct, in which the jobless data is shown as 7.9%. Let me quote the same data and dive more deeper into it. Like if we break the data, most of the job loss caseload is coming from Congress-ruled state, Rajasthan at 27%, Jharkhand at 17%, whereas BJP-ruled states like Karnataka have just 1.4% jobless, Gujarat has 1.6% jobless, UP has 4.9% jobless, MP has 3.4% jobless, and Uttarakhand has 5% jobless. You need to, consider more indicators. Like India has added 85 lakh crore wealth to the total market cap, highest ever, which is equivalent to 4 times the GDP of Bangladesh. In 2021, India added roughly $100 billion to its forex reserves, highest in a single year, taking the nation 4th largest forex reserve holder globally, surpassing many countries, including Russia this year. India recorded the highest FDI inflow of $82 billion in 2021.
But Rishi Bagri, that has not translated into the number of jobs that we were promised, the number of jobs that we have been looking forward to. And here I don't want to make it BJP versus Congress. Rishi, one second. I really don't want to make it BJP versus Congress because it's a very serious issue. And here I want to understand from you as an analyst, are you concerned about the data? Do you think we really need to do something more so that we are not discussing the same issue again? Because, Rituparna told us some very encouraging signs have emerged as well, especially from second quarter onwards this year.
Hinaji, you need to understand, we need to consider multiple indicators. Like we have seen 42 new unicorns this year, like highest in India and second highest in the world. And they have the combined total valuation of $82 billion. And we all know how these unicorns are creating jobs. I mean, Rituparna ji will vouch for this. I mean, we have crossed 100 billion monthly UPI transaction. I mean, this is almost double that of China. I mean, GST collection has been robust. The personal and the corporate collection has been record-shattering. Now, if there's no job, how the government is keep on collecting this thing? And India was 10th largest country by GDP. Today, India is the 5th largest country by GDP. One genuine question, if our economy is in mess and we are not creating jobs, then how come we jump 5 spots in GDP ranking, overtaking Russia, Canada, Italy, France, and Britain, the fastest ever in our history? You need to answer that question. Simple as that.
Okay. Professor Mehrotra, will you like to address?
Very simple. It's very, very simple. The point is that these much bigger economies than ours, we were, by the way, already 9th in 2014, and we were not 10th. And we are now 6th, by the way, and we are not 5th. The bottom line is the following. These mature economies do not grow as fast as a poor developing country like India. India's per capita income is at 2,000. All the other top 8 countries in the world are all at the top end of upper middle income, meaning $8,000 to $10,000, $12,000 per capita. You do not expect them to grow at that rate. They've already grown. The World Inequality Report just told us we are a poor country, and yet as unequal a country as Brazil and South Africa, which are much richer than us. So let's not even begin to compare. Don't always get, complete BJP hucks onto a program rather than analysts. Secondly, let's just remind ourselves that manufacturing jobs are better jobs than services jobs, than agriculture jobs. Now, manufacturing jobs have been dropping for the last 7 years. In absolute terms, this is for the first time in India's history that manufacturing jobs have dropped in absolute terms, not just as a share of manufacturing in output has declined. It had never declined in the last 30 years. It has declined from 17% to 13% under this government.
And that was the point that Mr. Vyas had also raised in the data that he gave us, that Yes, absolutely. And that was the point. And Professor Mehrotra, while I really appreciate your point of view, just a small request on the show. Let's avoid, targeting the other guest. Like Rishi Bagri is here as our guest, just like you, just like
Yes,
Rituparno,
yes, of
and
course.
just
May
like
I
you
finish?
both. He also has,
May I finish,
he's
Heenaji?
entitled to have his own view. We may differ
Absolutely, he's
with his
entitled to
view.
a
Yeah,
view.
yeah. So let's avoid,
Baseless,
personally
baseless
targeting
or not
anybody.
baseless, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, obviously. Can I just move on? Organized jobs as a proportion of
Yes,
all
sir.
jobs, organized sector jobs have fallen. This is happening in a country where overall employment has been falling. So you've got overall employment falling, at the same time unemployment falling, regular jobs falling, manufacturing jobs falling, the share of agriculture and total employment increasing, which hasn't happened for 15 years. Please try and understand what I'm talking about. Even before the pandemic, the share of agriculture in employment was systematically falling for 15 years, all the way till 19. It suddenly shot up from 40% to 42.5%, an absolute increase of employment in agriculture between 19 and 20 of 32 million. In other words, you wipe out the entire reduction in employment in agriculture that had taken place in the preceding 15 years. There is a catastrophe on the employment front all across the board. Obviously, for certain segments in a K-shaped recovery, obviously in certain segments in IT-based industries, like the startups, obviously all the startups are in either ed tech or fintech or health tech or food tech. They're all tech-based industries. You need very high levels of education, and they generate a very small number of jobs.
Yes, what you're saying is correct, and Rishi Bagri, that's the point that I was trying to raise here. Even though the economic recovery has been faster than expected, but probably it has not been directly proportional to the jobs that have been created, the employment rate in the country.
I don't understand. I mean, the Uber and Ola themselves give a 20 lakh jobs, 20 lakh drivers and partners on their platform. Swiggy is giving at least 15 lakh jobs.
So services
on the
sector
drivers.
maybe
the
seeing
services
a rise.
sectors are doing it, and this is a global
delivery
trend.
platforms, they are. But I'm
USA,
talking about manufacturing. I'm talking about other sectors.
Let me complete. This is what I'm saying. This is a global trend. Even in the USA, service sector has overtaken the manufacturing sector. Everywhere in the developed economy and in the far greater, bigger developing economy, the manufacture is been overshadowed by the service sector. This is the nature of the economy which has happened. The digital economy is overtaking these things. And what exactly they are creating a lot of efficiency. And that is the reason why the manufacturing is not expanding, but it is creating more efficient. And the efficiency is creating more output. So the job has shifted to the service industry because it is more paying industry, more well-paid industry. So this is what the crux of the matter is. And you have to live with this thing. And this is a global trend.
Rituparna Chakrabarti, your assessment on the manufacturing sector specifically, what have you observed? What has been the trend like?
Again, speaking from my experience, I think the biggest challenge right now, I mean, it's a sector which is heavily dependent on migrant labor. So till Diwali, I think manufacturing, even though the organizations were back to work, they were trying to get back into momentum, they were quite crippled by the lack of these migrant labor. Post-Chhat, we did see that there has been some improvement in availability of those migrant workers. Also, the vaccination process in hinterland in India, where most of these people went back, were not as happening as actively. So, but I think that also has improved. So my belief is that overall, we should notice an improvement in the manufacturing sector because though, of course, I mean, we have to watch out that what essentially Omicron does. I mean, personally, I mean, our assessment as an organization is that Omicron may not be as disastrous on the economy because of its nature. And I think more and more, organizations are prepared, and they seem to be very optimistic. But there has been some debate going on in terms of formal employment and the likes. I think one interesting, I know that itself is widely debated, but one interesting data point is EPFO enrollment to indicate formal job creation. Incidentally, its data speaks for itself and also reflects what's been going on. So in the month of April, there were about 8 lakh new enrollments. I'm giving you approximate figures. Because of what happened in the second wave, we saw that enrollment in the month of May going down to about 5.6 lakhs. I mean, that immediately shows the impact of what was happening. And then from June onwards till now, till November, there has been an increase in the numbers. I mean, June was about 9.7 lakhs. July went up to about 12.3 lakhs. September went up to about 15 lakhs. An interesting part is 40 to 50% of the enrollment and new enrollments, these are additions, are in the age bracket of 22 to 22 to 25 years. So what essentially I'm saying is that in absolute scenario, I totally understand the challenges that are faced in terms of, and there are many kids who have unemployment problem, subsistence employment problem. They do not have the wages that they deserve. All of it is obviously the fact of the country, and we cannot deny that. But I think side by sides, it's important for us to make progress. It's important to acknowledge the progress. And I see that in spite of the pandemic, we may not have gone back to the pre-pandemic level in many cases, but there is noticeable difference and there is a positive intake, or there is progress that we are making. I don't think the data really suggests that we are becoming worse than the past. So that's my submission.
I need to come in.
Okay, that is
on EPFO.
Very encouraging point that you're making. Yes, Ritu. Yes, Rishi.
No, I
Sorry,
just want to say.
I was the one who raised my finger first.
Okay, I believe Professor Mehrotra wanted to say. Yes.
That's right. It was not Rishi.
10 seconds, yes.
So, yeah, exactly,
can I say?
10 seconds. Rituparna, very...
Yes, sir.
Might have, Rituparna happened to sort of mistakenly say that it led to, new jobs. Actually, these are not new jobs. These are formalization of existing jobs. That's all that it is. There was in February a Supreme Court judgment which said to all the employers that contractual workers are supposed to also be registered under the EPFO. After February 2021, these employers began to register them. So new people began to show up in the formal EPFO. And that's all that is happening. I think this needs to be read along with the information Rituparna rightly pointed out earlier, that in Q2 and Q3 of the financial year, there is an uptick in organized employment. So most of the employment that Rituparna has been speaking about, and she makes no bones about it, is about organized sector. That's the sector that they deal with. The unorganized sector is doing
you're
very
right,
bad.
and
Can I come? Hinaji, can I come?
Okay. Rishi, 10 seconds, very quickly. I have very little time. Yes.
I just want to say, these are the other, we need to check many more indicators. Like highest steel consumption is happening, highest steel production is happening, highest cement consumption is happening, highest structure is happening, highest toll collection is happening, highest railway freight is happening, highest road freight is happening. eBay bills are the examples for that. So highest electricity usage is happening. So these are all data which point towards a higher consumption and higher manufacturing activities and higher economic activities. I mean, you can shrug around all these things and you can pick one thing, but that's not the thing. No? We need to see multiple indicators.
That the economic recovery was not faster than expected. Clearly, that is an important indicator you're talking about. Rituparna told us about how in the formal sector, organized sector rather, there has been some pickup. Green shoots are visible, but unorganized sector remains a big concern. Professor Mehrotra, I want to give you the last word. Budget is around the corner. You've talked about an important problem that India has at this point in time. Any solution that you will like to suggest for the government of India?
Well, hopefully the government, A, will increase capital expenditure, because private investment in infrastructure and capital expenditure is not happening. Public expenditure needs to increase. The states are not enough. States are the one which normally bear the burden of capital investment, and they are unable to do so because of the burdens of COVID. Secondly, I think the government needs to finally step up on the expenditure on health sector. If you step up on the health sector, increase in health infrastructure, also hire more doctors, nurses, paramedics, I think that would also generate jobs.
Right.
Thirdly, there are plenty of teacher jobs that remain to be filled across the country. Very, very large number of teacher jobs. In fact, over 200,000 jobs in UP alone are actually vacant. And children have already suffered very deeply. And finally, I hope for goodness that the government thinks seriously about increasing significantly allocation for Manrega and actually starting an urban employment guarantee program.
All right, Urban Employment Guarantee Program, will that find a mention in the upcoming budget or not? That remains to be seen, because that was one idea that we discussed last year as well ahead of the budget, an interesting one. Many agree that it is going to be the right move for India to solve its job crisis. Many disagree. We'll see what the government has to say, but I appreciate all of you, Rituparna Chakraborty, Rishi Bagri, Professor Santosh Mehrotra, for joining us on Urban Debate this evening.